I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to never forget this because it is the truth. I can't say this to anyone else, but I can say this to you, and I know that you'll see the truth.
Today, I sit down with Pamela Aayrlan, one of the most authentic conversations I've ever had as we dive into the paradoxes of the universe.
You think that God created this. You think that this is God's world. God knows nothing of your world. You created it.
God isn't aware of our delusions because God can't think in that way.
It's all been us.
The story that we've been told, that we're on an evolutionary journey back to source, is that true, or is that a story that we've created as well?
Everything is a story that we've created. There is no truth here. It's cosmic. Even if you get a glimpse of source, no one's ever going to understand.
This isn't something I talk about a lot. This massive, cosmic, beautiful thing. I can't even remember what it was. It couldn't fit in my brain.
Right?
Pamela, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation. As we were just discussing, we have so much in common, and I'm so excited to deep dive into your experience, your life with these spiritual communications that you've had since you were 5 years old.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I love your show. I love everything that you represent in compassion, authenticity, and just the real nature that you bring, minus all the spiritual bypassing, just the capacity to really do one's work and ground into deeper self-acceptance of who and what you are and what you represent. That I love about you. So thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much. The spiritual bypassing is something that we see a lot of in the spiritual community right now. And as we were just talking about, it's so important to be authentic and to be able to express and share authentically.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, I would love to ask you about your personal journey. Have you always had communication from beings, or is there a certain point in your life when that started?
If there was a point where that didn't happen, I just don't remember. It seems like life before 5. This is where our journeys are different. My life before 5 is a bit of a blur. It's almost as if the true nature of who I am walked in. Some people call that a walk-in. Yeah. So I have the strongest component of my human personality was kind of taken over from age 5. And I don't remember anything about my life prior. I just remember everything about the experiences and being afraid and in love and excited and on fire for this new life. But then all of a sudden, no one around me really understands. Simultaneously, no one understands. No one gets it. People think I'm a little bit,
right?
There's a word a little bit. There was a big journey, but I had my first experience at age 5.
Okay. So did you have an awareness of what you were here for?
Yes and no, because at age 5, as you can imagine, you don't really have the capacity. People are telling you, beings are telling you. I had multiple beings around who were saying, I'm your soul family. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to do these things. But what does that mean to a 5-year-old is another story. And then also I remember this feeling of trying to even remember who I was anymore, because then the whole walk-in experience was happening. And I didn't really have any recollection of why I am the way I am, or why are my parents suddenly saying, don't say this, don't say that, don't act this way, don't act that way. It was exciting and also lonely. I have led an incredibly lonely life with tons of people around me. I was also raised as a bit of a child prodigy, exceptional academics, exceptional musically talented, because the walk-in herself held music as a big part of her capacity. So that translated over to me. she passed on this walk-in in that same moment, in the same year, even at some point in time, her soul began to merge with mine. And some people get afraid when you think about walk-ins because you think, oh my gosh, it's someone completely different than you. But for those of us who can understand that time isn't a factor and that there is no other, that person is me and I am she. And we have had this shared experience since then, but it completely changed my life. And suddenly I became a musical prodigy who was constantly singing and humming and chanting and singing languages that no one understood. I didn't find out what it was until I began to explore the New Age journey when people called it light language. But, it's just this conglomeration of shared experiences. And then suddenly this loneliness as well that no one else really, you can't talk about it. No one understands it.
Yeah. You have the walk-in experience, you're having the spiritual experiences, the prodigy experience. There's so much that could be isolating and make you feel set apart from others your age.
Yeah. I read up about your journey and remembering your pre-birth intentions and going through that. You can't really talk to anyone about that. And it's hard to make friends, even as an adult, even as you age and mature. There's no one really that's going to understand that because people are so attached to their idea of time. Was that lonely for you as well?
It has been difficult. This isn't something I talk about a lot, so thank you for asking. I feel that I have to be careful with language because I don't want to make it sound like I'm different or better than anyone else in some way because of my experience. But I was the kid that had no friends. I still struggle in relationships to be authentic simply because nobody believes me. So why would I bring it up?
Why would you share? Exactly it.
And I've also been surprised at the lack of interest because to me, these spiritual things have been the most fascinating thing. And maybe it's because of my spiritual experiences, but now there is more interest now. I am noticing a shift in that. I'm excited to hear about this, but people just kind of ignore it or shut it down for the most part.
Right. And how did you manage that though, growing up when just to be automatically stonewalled and shut down,
I was an extreme introvert. That's just part of my personality as well, though. I tend to just like being alone, sticking to myself, meditating, reading, gardening. I love nature. I love animals. And I have to make an effort to live what I'm preaching because we know because of these spiritual experiences that we've had that it's all about love. And that we need to be loving and we need to be in the community and serving and impacting people and spreading kindness. And so I have to make an effort to do that, to consciously remember, yes, I need to get out and do that.
It's easy to say that. I'm not an introvert. I'm kind of an ambivert. I have moments of real deep introspection and really not wanting to be around people when they suck. Just going to call it.
Yeah.
That was on my mind. It's easier for us to say live a love covered life, but when people are really attacking the core essence of everything that you are while you're simultaneously trying to grasp who and what you are, and you're on a journey that no one seems to understand. And as a human, the only thing that you actually want is connection. Connection. Even if you don't understand another person, connection. Even if I don't understand other people, I want to connect. And for me, growing up with these gifts, I didn't understand why people wouldn't want, even if they couldn't understand, a human connection with another loving person. So I had moments of my life where I began to shut down that bubbly, loving, funny, compassionate personality. And it has taken many, many years and a lot of work to get back to that core of that innocent, childlike, exuberant, kind of off the cuff, wild child that I am. Now she's back and I'm more excited than ever, but it has taken so long to get out of the trauma of the world. Does that make sense? The trauma of the world.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, there's the structures and the systems that are in place in society, but there's also the structures or the spaces of the collective consciousness that's influencing everybody in a certain direction.
Yeah, the conditions, the educational systems and conditions, the religious systems and conditions.
Do you like what you're hearing on this podcast? For just $10 a month, you can join Love Car Life Academy, where you'll have access to our exclusive community chat and our weekly live streams, where we answer your most pressing questions and deep dive into your spiritual practice. You don't have to be alone on this journey. Come join us. We would love to have you.
Which apparently you and I also both share in our backgrounds. Coming out of that feels like coming out of a cult.
Yes.
And everybody's still in it. And I don't know if you felt this way. I'm so curious to hear your take as a light worker on how you felt coming out of that. Because it's like, for me, it felt a little bit like walking out of an insane asylum and realizing you were the same one the entire time. And everyone shouting from the windows going, come back, you're not going to be okay. Come back, you're crazy. Come back to us. Come back to the insane asylum. Take our pill, take our educational pill, take our religious pill, take our marriage pill, take our, this is how your relationship is pill. Take the pill. Be like us, join our insanity.
And it's not working. It's not working for anybody, which is what makes it so crazy.
Right. And they aren't happy and they're visibly unhappy. It's not working and they don't even know why they're unhappy. And it's when you awaken, you kind of, I hope that many viewers who listen today can kind of relate to this feeling of, wow, I've spent my whole life trying to be in a system of insanity. And it was very unloving. It was far from compassionate. And not only that, but it was repressive. It was soul stealing, right? And now I actually, I get to be a loving adult. I get to be weird. I get to be actually who I am. How did you feel? Did you let yourself come out of that? Is my question for you as a colleague in this field. Did you let yourself come out of it? And what was it like? And I'm so curious.
Thank you for asking again. I would say with the religious deconstruction, that was the first step. And then there's all the other societal things, like you mentioned, the educational system, the medical system, the food system, the banking system, all of these things. And when you kind of have an awakening in any one of these systems, it is like feeling like, oh, like for me, I kind of felt like we're all being controlled. Like, and we can't even see it. And it's like waking up and realizing what was happening to you the whole time. And specifically when I came out of the church, it felt like this expansion. Like I already knew like what I wanted to believe this whole time, what I wanted to be the truth, that it's all about love, that it's all divine. That's actually the truth. And I can expand into this and leave this old system behind.
Yeah. And did you feel that you could find supportive friends and a supportive partner? Or your kids supportive? How about your bio family?
I didn't have a lot of support in terms of friends. I will just say that one or two of them agree with me or on board with where I'm at right now. There were others that didn't agree, but were understanding. And then there were still others that were not okay with it, even to the point of being manipulative.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I've connected with up until now are online. How about for you?
Yeah, because you find your soul family in so many various ways. They're all over the world. And when we begin to find other members of our soul groups, we began to feel understood for the first time. It's been an interesting connection for me. I wanted to keep hiding. I wanted to wake up, but I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. I wanted to wake up fully and to do everything that these beings and angels and guides were asking me to do, even though I didn't fully understand it. But I also wanted to hide and not be as public as I am right now. I only came onto YouTube because of a straight up, this is the honest truth, a double dog dare from a friend.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't have come on here at all, to YouTube at all. I would have stayed hidden. I was doing the readings, doing the teachings, doing my work, but I did not want to be seen at all, except for by the very few people, because there's only like 2 people in my biological family that support, right? And their parents. So I was blessed in that regard. Many people aren't. And other family members, they can kind of understand. They get it because they saw my weirdness, right? But as an adult, it kind of felt like I was doing all these readings, doing all these teachings, and especially with Yeshua and my journey with Yeshua, with that one they call Jesus. He doesn't call that name when I channel him. He's never used that name for me. So that one we call Ishwa or Yeshua, it's like praying, but a different way, connecting, but a different way, prayer, but unreligious. And then suddenly he's coming through my readings. He's channeling through messages. I have this really good friend, and he begins to channel through messages for her all the time. And she says, well, why aren't you on YouTube? Other people are beginning to share his messages and they're doing okay. Why don't you do it? And I said, because my life is perfectly fine. It's working perfectly. Why would I go on YouTube? I'm hidden. No one's going to attack me. It's perfectly fine. Like, why? And she said, I dare you. I asked, okay, keep daring. She said, no, I double dog dare you. Like, I'm going to be right and you're going to be wrong. And that's the end of it. Do it. I said, yeah, but if they hate it and if I'm attacked, I'm way too sensitive for that. I don't handle attack very well. Still to this very day as an adult, I don't handle, and there is no tolerance in my heart or in my life for anyone to desecrate my holy temple. Now, YouTube, they don't care. Like, there's some wonderfully supportive people, but there's a lot of trolls, there's bots, there's jealousy, there's people who want to take you down just for being yourself. There's other colleagues who also want to take you down. That's another thing. Yeah. So there's so much that I didn't know going into this, and I'm glad I didn't know it because I wouldn't have gone into it. I wouldn't have even opened a YouTube account. I wouldn't have shared that very first Jesus channeling where I was so scared that my little 15-month-old daughter came up and put one of her own little hair clips in my hair. And she says, you have to wear this. I'm not necessarily the leader in my child parent situation with her. She seems to think that she's the mom. So she said, oh, you're going to wear this. You're going to do this. Oh, it's so pretty. Go wear this.
That's adorable.
I didn't have the equipment. My microphone was bouncing around everywhere. He would walk closer to me and I would cry. I would burst into tears. I got trolled. I had someone come on screen with a hat on, eating Cheetos with sunglasses on and giving a fake story about why did his cat get caught in the garage door opener. That was my first YouTube experience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just got thrown right into it.
I got thrown right into it. And I was just this little naive, innocent thing who was hiding. And, it's either going to be wonderful or it's going to be terrible. And who am I to do this? Who am I? Have you ever felt that who am I to channel this being? And she said, yeah, but you're already doing it. So it's selfish not to share. And she's right. So I shared. And when it was over, it's kind of like was this horrendous first experience, like getting trolled, technical problems, crying in front of people. I had my finger on the delete button, like just like that. And she calls me right after. She was like, that was amazing. You have no idea. That was so incredible. It's going to touch so many lives. And it went viral. It was like, just like that. And I had no idea. And here I was, this person who like did not want the fame, did not want to be seen, and kind of still doesn't. Partially, like 50% of me still doesn't want to be seen. So this is why I wanted to come on your show.
It's crazy how that happens when something is meant to be, and then it's like it unfolds against your will sometimes, or without you. Like, it just happens.
Well, I wanted to ask you because I love who you are and what you bring, and I love your show and I love your story. It's so similar to mine. And I wanted to ask, did you have similar experiences? Can you relate to this?
Similar in the sense of not wanting to be out there publicly or anything specific.
All of it.
I went to YouTube because I didn't have anyone to talk to about my spiritual experiences. I was so scared putting it out there because I did not want to be judged. But I was at a point in my life where I'd been deconstructing for several years from my Christian upbringing, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And all of this is going on inside me, and I can't talk to anybody. I tried talking to a couple people. It did not go well.
Oh, no.
I talked to my brother and my daughter. Those were the two people I could talk to. And I said, surely there has to be people out there who have had similar experiences who want to hear about this. So I posted it, and that's how the YouTube channel started. And it turned into what it is now. I never saw myself podcasting. I never at that point imagined I would have 100,000 subscribers.
Right, because you're an introvert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then this is not like talking is my weak point. I'm pretty sure I have not been formally diagnosed, but I am pretty sure that I am neurodivergent in some way. I do not have good social skills. I am very slow with verbal processing. This is the last thing that I should be doing.
I love that so much because for me, I know that I'm neurodivergent. And I have lack of social reciprocity. So I listen well, but I interrupt. Like for me, it's difficult. Like I'm hearing what people are saying, but I relate to it at a different level. And my brain is just channeling through at like 1,000 miles per hour. It's incredibly ADHD in its expression. So I love to talk, but I am unintentionally, like I long for connection so much that I'm unintentionally talking over people because I'm so curious and I'm like cutting them off. Like I'm that sort of spectrum.
So yeah, that's something that I think is pretty common, like with people in the spiritual community who, I don't know what the correct language is, but their channels are open and they're experiencing other dimensions or what's called spiritual gifts, although I don't like that terminology, is that we tend to be like on the neurodivergent side and maybe have other, what's the word? Because we have access, like for me, I'm very energy sensitive. I'm constantly bombarded by the energy of people and places and the collective energy and all of this stuff all day long. But to compensate for that, I don't function very well in the physical world. I'm not good in social situations. I don't notice details. I don't see things that other people would see. Do you have a similar experience?
I do, particularly as you were discussing not noticing details. It's like I'm listening, but I'm listening to their soul, not to what they're saying. I'm connecting the dots between what is said and what is unsaid, and I'm looking for the deeper, and I know it's there. And as a child, I would just fill in the blanks of what they're not saying. I'm like, so you feel this way? And they're like, I didn't say that. So much that you didn't even ask for that you're like, please shut up. So I'm looking for that. And when I'm listening to someone, I'm like, ooh, that's juicy. I see that. I see that's wonderful. Oh, that's their pain, but they haven't touched it. Do I want to help them touch it? Do we want to talk about it? Like I'm that kind of person and I want to bring it out. And I want everything that they're not saying to be out on the table. And I'm still learning that maybe not everyone really wants to do that.
So you want deep, authentic connections, not surface level social stuff.
Yeah. So in the way that my channeling works is I'm walking around and I deeply related to what you were saying about being bombarded by the energies. You walk into the grocery store and someone looks at you and you hear every single judgmental thought that they have about you, Maybe you remind them of someone they hate. Maybe they don't like overweight people and you're overweight. Maybe they don't like underweight people and you're underweight. Maybe they see someone that they love in you and they are smitten and you are getting unwanted attention. I've had that stage of my life as well, unwanted attention from people. And you can feel the glomming of the energy of the, oh my gosh, beautiful person. I don't see myself as beautiful, not outside, not outwardly. My beauty is in my heart, in my soul, in the essence of who I am. I'm not attempting to look physically attractive. So I have had unwanted attention. But when you can walk into just a public place and hear all the thoughts, all the deep inward thoughts and longings and fears, and then you have their angels, their dragons, and spirit guides, their animal totems, their everything, their entire spirit family, the deceased people that they've lost, the deceased animals that they've lost, it's all right there. And then people say, hear every single thing about me on the surface of who I am. Don't see the deeper, beautiful components of me. Only see what I'm sharing with you. Don't see everything else around me spiritually either, because that's weird and uncomfortable. It's a very odd world to live in. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So let me ask you, how do you navigate all of that? Is it always on for you all the time? Or can you
100%.
focus in on what you want to focus on?
100% is on all the time, but I had to learn psychic energy hygiene.
Tell me about that. Sounds like something I need to know more about.
Yeah. When the walk-in came into my experience, when that essence of that person's soul came into my form and merged her soul with mine, she's a yogi. and she has an ashram, and she spent years and years and years, like prior to that lifetime, she was a Sufi master. So she was a whirling dervish spinning around. She was a musician. So if she was upset, she played instruments and sang and chanted. She spent all day in connection and prayer, but she was protected. It's a different world. If you live in an ashram, it is a different world. If you live in a temple as a Sufi master, it's a different world. And then you come into a modern American form, attempting to be, this person that doesn't want to be known and that no one knows. And you hold this reverence for life, for earth, for animals, for insects, for everything. You hold this deep love in your heart, but no one else does. That's what bothers me more than everything, is that people want that, but it saddens me. They're busy just surviving, paying the mortgage, just putting food on tables, making sure that their in-laws are not going to be mean to their children, or whatever it is that they're struggling with. Making some people are making sure they're not going to get raped and sex trafficked that day. There's horrible things going on. I still haven't acclimated to that. So what I needed and still have to use daily, all day, is pratyahara. Pratya means to draw in or draw back energy. I had to use my own yogic techniques, my own shamanic techniques. I had to learn when to draw in energy that I need and to be able to receive the love that I need and the light and the nourishment that I need, both from food and emotional support, the love, to receive it and not back it away, but to also learn when to push it away, to draw in or draw back, when to push unwanted attention, unwanted judgments, even if people aren't speaking them out loud. What people forget about me is that I can read every aspect of your mind, everything you're saying all the time. And I don't want to. I'm not tuning in. I'm not trying to be nosy. It's a flood of information.
Yeah.
Of everything all of the time. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime. A little bit of everything all of the time. That's my life.
That's your life.
I'm sorry, I'm a weirdo. So
I love it.
No, sorry. So it's like that for me all the time. So I had to learn to draw in and pull back. I had to learn my grounding, my shielding, my how to cleanse. And it's not the same for everyone. So then here's me going to the New Age community, and people are talking about grounding, but they're talking about it in a way that they're like, here you go, is going to do it. Now you're going to visualize this. You are a tree. It goes down into the earth. And I'm like, put your feet on the ground. touch the tree, plant a tree, be the tree, like sit, quiet the mind and body enough to understand the tree. But we don't have time or inclination or understanding enough, even what that is, because the ego wants to do grounding and wants to do chakra cleansing and wants to do, and I'm like, it's so simple. If I like someone's thoughts, I leave it open. I leave it open. But if I don't like it, I need to shield. I need to give it back. I need to put it back where it came from. I need to return to sender really, really quickly. I need to learn the Ho'oponopono, the forgiveness, the art of it. I sing Ho'oponopono constantly. I'm always singing, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. You probably know because you do it when you teach about the chakras. As a matter of fact, I'm rambling on. Please just stop me, but I have to.
No, I love it. I love this.
I had to comment on your recent YouTube that you taught about how you manifested your life and coming from where you come from, and you were so real and authentic about the struggles, and then like the idea of, oh, well, if I just keep my energy up all the time, the vibration, if I just keep it high all the time, and then realizing that that's actually not that doesn't mean being loving all the time. That doesn't mean trying to be compassionate when you don't feel compassionate, or trying to be spiritually high when you don't feel spiritually high. And what that meant for you, I needed to comment on that because it was exceptional and true. And I also wanted to comment that I noticed our similarity in how we teach the chakra systems, and our similarity in the importance of the root chakra. And the root chakra is where it's at. The safety is where it's at. That who you are is in the root chakra, the root of where you are. So I am perpetually always focusing on the chakras, and not in this flighty way, but in this really grounded, go touch a tree, stop and do an honest self-assessment of what I'm feeling, who I am, and what I actually want and don't, all the time. And this is incessant work. Just because I have gifts doesn't make me an enlightened being. And enlightenment itself, what even is that? You feel it and then it goes away, and then you feel it and then it goes away. I've had 33 samadhi experiences.
Wow.
But it's not practical. Because when I was a yogi, people would sit around and massage my feet and make sure that they put stuff in my mouth and water and try to get me to drink and keep me alive. And now I have kids and I'm married, and I can't sit there and let someone massage my feet to make sure they don't fall asleep. I can't sit there and hide away from the world. That's not what an enlightenment is going to look like as a practical human. So
I'd love to ask you more about that. I think if I had had my choice, which I suppose I probably did have a hand in planning my life, but from this side of things, I would have chosen to be a Himalayan yogi meditating all day. And I think that's why the grounding is so important for me, because I have to get myself in my body.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what is the point? Because we all want enlightenment. We all want that samadhi experience. But like you said, you can't sit around and just meditate in an ashram all day and be weighted on hand and foot. Like, we have to be here. We have to be grounded. We have to do the work. Are we trying to bring in that higher state of consciousness into the human experience? Is that what's going on? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Where do I start? I would like to say yes. However, what if this is it? What if we have forgotten so much, and just the remembering of the beauty of who we are is going to be what grounds? In that instantaneous moment of divine recollection of what people call awakening, it could happen anytime, because you're already that. We're not these bodies. We're not these dense forms, yet the body is so impeccably important. And if I want it to be different, if I want it to feel different, if I spend my life wanting to feel more joyful, wanting to be more compassionate than I am, wanting to be more humble than I am, all the things that spirituality tells me that I should be, how loving is that? What if it's the deep radical acceptance of everything that we already are? What if that's what it takes to really bring light into a dense form and a dense construct, a dense mind, body, soul construct, for whatever it is we want to call it? What if it's just that deep acceptance of who we are as we are? Because we're not going to want to change things just because we should, just because some enlightened guru somewhere says that we should and says that that's the direction that we're going. That we're not going to want to change it because we're bad people, we're unenlightened, we're ignorant. We're not going to change it by someone saying it's unloving, that we're being unloving. We're not going to change it if we don't feel who and what we are. So in that sense, the idea of enlightenment is flawed in my perspective and opinion, because it's this unattainable place when all of the religions, all the yogic masters, everybody that wrote all the spiritual texts, don't they say that we are love? Doesn't it say that God loved us so much that even the Bible says he gave his only son for us? Whatever the book is, that's not my preferred reference point, but whatever the book is you're looking at right now for your preferred reference point, they all come back to we are love, God is love, everything is love. And what if it's unloving and it's not love to go and pretend to be love? I know I'm sounding counterproductive.
No, it makes sense, because all of the great masters have said that it's about like radical acceptance, like you're saying, acceptance of the present moment and being present with what is. As long as you're trying to attain something or be something or become something, like that's, you can only do or become from the ego perspective.
Right. The ego wanting to do enlightenment. It's what ends up happening. It's
exactly. Yeah.
insidious. Like we don't see it. It's kind of sneaky in how, and we do that in the New Age systems as well. We kind of come in and we're like, I'm going to do this for this chakra and I'm going to do that for that chakra. I'm going to visualize this, intentions, affirmations, whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I love it. I feel like these are beautiful ritualistic parts of culture that also beautifully define our expressions of source. But what would happen if we just sat still for a moment and listened to all that is around us? The beauty of the pain, the beauty of the suffering, the beauty of everything, and just said, okay, does source make mistakes? Is there any mistake on this planet? How can that be? How can that be? If that's the truth, that source doesn't make mistakes, why are we blaming God for every single darn thing that's ever happened in a human created world? When I challenged religion more deeply and got a challenge back, I wanted to share this story with you because I feel like you'll actually relate. When I was in I think I was probably on child number 2, and I had this neighbor who was a Southern Baptist fundamentalist pastor, but for some reason he just saw me. And I was kind of like privately doing my readings. Oh my God, I'm a life coach, that stage of my life. What do you do? Oh my God, I'm a life coach. And I was also a very good family photographer. I love to take pictures of animals and children, families, sporting events, birthday parties, anything that exemplified life. I wanted to be behind the camera, not in front of it. And exceptional. I loved it. Natural light photography. That was everything that I was about. And I came over to take some photos for his kids, and we got into a massive conversation. He recognized my dark night of the soul right away. And he said, you have a sadness in your eyes that is not unseen to me. And it is very familiar. And I just want you to know that you're going to be okay. He said, I want you to know that I see you. I want you to know that I love you. And I'm not just saying that because you're my neighbor or because it's godly. I just see your pain and I think it's beautiful. And I wish that you would talk to people about it. I wish that you would just share it. And I said, okay, game on. You saw me. Let's talk. He goes, oh, let's talk. I'm going to get you some coffee. Let's go into the living room. I'm going to put the baby down, put your camera away, and let's just talk, you and me. And I said, are you trying to convert me? Because it would be really good if you were, but just know I'm unconvertible. I'm totally evil. You forget about it. I'm not. I'm just playing. And we talked, and I said, I have a question for you that's been on my heart for a very long time, because you're trying to get me to believe that God is so good. But I look around and I see children being taken from mothers. I see genocide. I see on the cover of Time that year that I was speaking to him, there was this baby, this tiny little child. My gosh, I could have just committed my whole life. I remember seeing the cover of this child on a magazine and this photographer that had taken it, and they were talking about the struggles after Rwanda, in the Sudan especially. And I said, I just want to go there. I just want to sweep him up. I just want to take care of him. I just want to adopt them all. And I just want to, and I said, look at this. And I had it in my purse. I had the Time magazine in my purse of the emaciated child in the middle of nowhere, just being left. And the parents had just left him there because there was war, and he was lying there dying in the middle of nowhere in the Sudan. And I'm like, how? But how? You believe in God. So I'm going to show this to you, and I'm going to ask you how this can be. If you say that there's a loving God and that he loves us and that nothing is a mistake and that everything is that God has planned, that it's okay, how? And I remember he grabbed my hand and he looked deep into my eye and he took a deep breath. He said, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to never forget this, because it is the truth. I can't say this at church. I can't say this to anyone else, but I can say this to you. And I know that you'll see the truth. And he was holding my hand really tightly. And I remember he was like rubbing my hand, like this. And he said, my God, my child, you think that God created this. You think that this is God's world. This is humanity's doing. You need to forgive humanity, not God. God knows nothing of your world. You created it. And suddenly I came out of my depression. You would have think that would have just brought me into some nihilistic state of something, but instead I just cried and I cried and I cried. And I said, my God, what have we done? What have we done? And in that moment, my whole life shifted and I knew who I was.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. It's such a huge shift to come from that mindset of being taught that everything that happens is God's will, which is what I was taught to an extreme, to realizing, wait a minute, we're all God. We're all part of God. So when you ask the question, why did God do this? Then I have to go look in the mirror. Why did I allow this? What if I may ask, what is your view now? How would you answer that question now? Do you believe that there is a God or a source that is destining or controlling or in charge of everything, or something else? How do you see that?
I have studied this my whole life, and no book has ever taught me this. No yogi, no enlightenment experience. There is a cosmic source. It is beyond anything that a human can perceive. It is beyond galactic even. It's beyond anything that I could even speak of. And it is absolutely love. Absolutely love. And it created us and said, my child, go dream. And we are a spark of light in the mind of Creator. Creator had a holy moment where it thought, I want to see all of this love in a separate form. I want to see the love that I am. I love so much. And I want to see it. I want to see it somehow. I want creation. And in that moment we were. And then we created hierarchy and lower and higher and above and below and all those beautiful things, not that they're good or bad or right or wrong or here nor there. They are beautiful. They're exceptionally creatively brilliant. But there's also darkness. There's a darkness in creation. We could not see the light without it. We could not. We would not remember because we have forgotten so much somewhere along the way. The more that we express throughout time, we become further and further distant from the memory of oneness, from the truth. And I call that the great forgetting. Now, every universe has laws, and our universe has the law of oneness, but how our universe actually operates on is the law of paradox. The law of paradox will explain every single thing that has happened, will happen, or is happening. And the paradox of everything is that we are one and we are a part of a whole. We are one and we are separate and creative and beautiful in those separations. It's the everything. The everything. We're a part of the everything. And we have every God-given birthright in our sovereignty to have free will. We have a beautiful free will, and we have created evil from it. We have created love from it, and we have created every shadow of evil and every light of love. We have created every beautiful expansion. It's all been us. God has just let us free to dream. And this is our creation. No matter how we look at it, we have created all the prime creators, all of the ideas of prime creation. That's all us. Those are all beautiful stories. Archangels, those are all beautiful stories of our creation. And when we drop this form, we're going to see that we've created hierarchy even out of light and love. We're like, yeah, that ascended master better than this one, and that one's higher up along the evolution of this one. And Saint Germain, oh no, he's actually evil. And like the people just like keep creating and creating. Not that that's I'm not against it, but I believe we have the right to continue our creation and our free agency. That's what Christ consciousness is. It's a birthright. Mm-hmm. And then we also have divine will, where occasionally we have to come out of the great forgetting and we have to experience what I call the great remembering. We have to remember the truth of love and stop separating for a moment and remember our oneness. And that creates a connection. That divine remembering, that great remembering creates a moment of consciousness where Source can come in because we remember, and Source can say, hey, I'm here. I've always been here. And you are my sons and daughters and everything in between and all your divisions of gender and non-gender. You are me. And there's no need to fight or argue. And you can continue to be beautifully different. And I see you and I love you, but I am not personified. And I will never be personified. Source will never be personified.
So the story that we've been told, that we are all fractals of Source that have been expanded out into creation, and we're on an evolutionary journey back to Source. Is that true, or is that a story that we've created as well?
Everything is a story that we've created. There is no truth here. So ask yourself this. Truth is creative and beautiful, but there's like subjective and objective. I believe in objective truth for sure. But subjectively speaking, we're in this environment where we're looking for objective truth and we hold no concept because our brain can't hold that. It's cosmic. It's nothing that could ever be confined or restricted by our limited mindset. So even if you get a glimpse of Source, you can never really teach about it. No one's ever going to understand. That's the loneliness of enlightenment. No one's ever going to get it. I know you know this. So yeah, it's true. That's the law of paradox. It's true in our subjective laws of creation. We have created those stories and they're beautiful. And overall, it may be untrue. Objectively, it may be.
Yeah. I think what I hear you saying, and I agree with this, is that we can't comprehend.
Yeah.
From an intellectual perspective, anyway, we cannot comprehend truth. I know that what I saw in my out-of-body experience, I had to transcend several dimensions in order to be able to see it. And then I looked down on it, and it was this massive, cosmic, beautiful thing that could
describe.
No, I can't even remember what it was. It couldn't fit in my brain.
Right.
So it's like we're living in the world of shadows in a way, or of like, what's the word? See, I told you I'm not good with language, but living in the world of relativity.
Yeah.
Like we see all the different aspects, like the light has been separated through a prism, and we see all of these different perspectives, but they're all just perspectives.
Mhm.
And everything is just a perspective.
Mhm. And if you think about it, the idea and the concept that we separate and forget, I believe that's our creative story, and it's true. It's very painful and beautiful. In the illusion, it's true. That's the subjective truth. And I feel like we're all like the beginning stages of awakening. That's where the truth is for a subjective environment. In our creative world, that's true. It's as true as there could be another form of me right now walking around that's mad and wants to stab me in the chest. And do I want to spout some inconceivable law of oneness in that moment? No, I'm probably going to shout an obscenity. I'm probably going to fight for my life. I'm probably going to defend myself. And I'm probably going to say, why did you do that? Maybe. Or at least I'm going to think it later. I'm going to wonder why other me would do it. So sometimes these ideas that we're all separate and we're all one can actually be an interesting component to give us sovereignty. But if we try too hard to look at that, if we try too hard to wrap our heads around the coming back to it, when ultimately speaking, why would we ever leave? Why did we ever leave? In this subjective realm, we have forgotten. That's what the great forgetting is for. But is it true that we could ever not be? Is time true? Is separation true? Ultimately speaking, it's not. And if you come stab me in the chest right now, it's going to hurt, and that's going to feel subjectively true, and it's going to be painful. And it's going to be very much true in my subjective environment. So this is where paradox comes in as the ultimate law of this universe. It's both of those theories are true.
Yeah, I love that.
And I feel like if many people could hold different truths in their hands simultaneously without we just do this thing. I don't know how to define this, but this thing we do where we're looking for the right way, the truth, the one truth. When if we could hold everyone's truths together and just say, that's a component of it, that's a component of it, that's a component of it, that's true and a lie. That's true and a lie. Everything on earth is a portion of truth and a portion of a lie. I have found very little here that is 100% true, save love itself, which is inconceivable to us.
So would you say that love is the closest thing to the truth that we can comprehend or maybe experience?
We can't comprehend or experience source love.
Well, yes, from our limitations here.
I mean, objectively speaking, sure, but what does that mean? In our creative dualistic world, we're going to try to slap the meaning to it. This is, and then we go, that isn't. This is light. The moment we say this is light, well, where's the dark? We're always looking for something that is opposing. Not that that's bad. That's a beautiful part of why we're here. But this is like the journey of the paradox of everything is that this world is absolutely insane. It is an insane way to live. And it's also beautiful. It's pain and it is also love. It's wrong and it is also right. So if we could learn to hold other people's truths, other spiritual teachings of truth, other religious truths, other truths in our hands, and not be so quick to dodge it all off as truth or a lie, but to look at it really objectively in the way that God would, then that would be helpful. One of the things that Yeshua told me when I was 5, some of our very first conversations, he said, I need you to be responsible. And I said, but I'm 5, God. He goes, oh, no, I'm not. I'm not God. I'm a son of God. I'm a child of God just like you. I said, but you're Jesus. You're not like me. You're better. So we had those beautiful conversations and teachings. And he said, you have to be able to hold everything. It's a lot of weight of the world to hold that phrase, the weight of the world. He said, so I want you to be a responsible child of God. I said, but I'm 5. He said, yeah, but your soul is, probably 2 million years old if we have to put it on it. So and everybody's is, not just me. I'm not trying to be special. We're all so incredibly anciently beautiful. We're all old. We're all enlightened already. We just don't remember. Some other world, we're using all the gifts that I'm using and that you're using. Some other world, we're all doing that like it's breath, like it's nothing. And he showed me that. He showed me all the other versions of me, the murderer, the victim, the victor, all the versions of me in every environment. And he said, you'll forget this. And honestly, I have forgotten a lot of it. There's only a few of the things that stuck in my head, obviously the yogi memories. He said, when this other part of you comes in, you're going to forget everything that I told you about all these other lives. And it's just going to be from this one vantage point, the yogi vantage point. And he said, but responsible, what does that mean? I need you to respond, to have the ability to respond as God does. That's all that I ask of you, your whole life. Respond as God does. So I keep asking myself, what would God think? What would God feel? What would God say? And what would God do? And that's been my saving grace that is outside of any religion that claims to save.
So what would God do? Bringing it back to where we are now in this three-dimensional world, looking at all the things that are going on in the world, all the world events with the wars and the natural disasters and the politics and everything that's happening. From our limited vantage point and perspective, and feeling as weak and powerless as most people do, but also remembering that we are responsible for what's happened here, as we discussed earlier. What would God do? What can we as one person, how can we respond as God?
That's the $1 million question. Because we can't actually conceive what God would do, because we've separated so many times, so many birth, life, death, reincarnation cycles that we typically don't have any conceivable notion of what God would do. But we know one thing. We know that God would love it anyway. We know that God would say whatever arises in everything is love. And God would love that. Now, sometimes the human portion, God's child, that has forgotten that it is love, needs a rest, needs to say, I don't love that, needs to say that is not okay. And the paradox is that that too is love. That too is loving. Sometimes the human needs a rest, needs to be allowed to love or to hate, to fear or to doubt. Sometimes the human needs to be allowed that acknowledgement of Christ's sovereignty to say, I feel what I feel. And even though I know that it isn't me to feel something unloving, would it be loving to consider otherwise? Would it be compassionate to do otherwise? Would it be compassionate to be somewhere where I am not? Since I hold no concept, I'm going to love what is here in the way that I can, in the moment that I can. Sometimes that looks like a boundary. Sometimes that looks like a rest. Sometimes that looks like a yes. Sometimes that looks like a no. Sometimes that looks like permission to mess up. And I have no conceivable way to tell you what God would say about any of that, because God knows that we're dreaming, but God doesn't actually know of this dream. That's the other thing that Jesus said to me. He said, God knows children is dreaming, but it doesn't know what it's dreaming about. It gives a miraculous grace and light to you, and then within your sovereignty, you use it and you create a miracle and call it divine intervention. You created the miracle, accessing the light and love for that moment that you are. You, as God, in that moment, created the miracles because you are a portion of God. So you're creating it, and God doesn't even know you're doing it. And we call a storyline that we call that is divine will.
Are you familiar with A Course in Miracles? Because it says the same thing, that God isn't aware of our, it would call delusions or the mad ideas that we've created here, because God can't think in that way.
That channel through which it was produced, I struggled with the way that it was channeled. So I kind of went on to, I tried to read it, and I went, the scientific language of this is killing me. And I'm a grammatical, verbal, vocabulary freak type of a person. Should have been an English major probably. And when I was reading it, I was kind of like, I don't understand these words, and it's blocking my ego. It can't get through. So what I did was I went and I read the teacher's manual.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said, just go straight to the teacher's manual and then do the worksheet. And when you do the student's worksheet, the workbook in the back, it's going to tell you to go to chapter 1, and it's going to give you these exercises that you can do, like in your form. And do those exercises and then go read the first chapter. And that's how I read A Course in Miracles. And then it made sense.
Yeah, I love it.
I had to pull it through here first,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Pamela, thank you so much for having this conversation. I've truly enjoyed your authenticity and just being able to be real and not have to use like all the traditional new age language for everything with all the spiritual bypassing and everything, but just being real and just saying it like it is and like you've experienced it. I really appreciate that.
Of course. And that's what I see in you daily with your work in the world. So thank you for being that shining beacon of light, authenticity, and continuing to do that, because that gives the rest of the world permission to do the same.
Thank you. Would you like to share with people where they can find you, more about your YouTube channel, and anything else you have going on?
Yeah, my YouTube channel is just Pamela Aayrlan Channeling. And you can find a lot of my channelings from the very first group that still works with me called the Galactic Council of Nine. You can find my Jesus channelings there. You can find pretty much any being that I channeled there that's been working with me. You can find me on my Patreon channel. You can find me at com.
Wonderful. I'll have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you for watching and listening. Your views, likes, comments, and shares truly make the biggest difference in supporting this channel. Don't forget to check the show notes for all the links to today's guest, as well as my links. You'll find me on social media at Love Covered Life, my website, lovecoveredlife.com, and the Be a Guest link for anybody who would like to be a guest on the channel. I have great news. Love Covered Life podcast is coming available on audio podcast. You can find it wherever you listen to your audio podcasts.